Hi, and welcome to the 32nd installment of Keen Minds. I am Jen, aka Takata Saiko,
And I am Tessa from Criminally Sane in Tumblr.
and we are covering this week's episode of NBC's The Blacklist,
Philomena.
Philomena, sorry.
Philomena. Yes. It was an outstanding episode. Did you like it?
I did. I mean, it was very much a setup episode, but it's as the roomie said one time, if you're gonna have a filler episode, that's the way to do it. And it wasn't a filler, it was a setup, but that's the gist of it. Is you've got to have those to get to from point A to point B episodes, but they still need to be interesting, they still need to fascinate and move forward, and this one did. And so that's always a good thing. And it introduced some new characters going forward and some new interesting storylines being set up.
Yes, I am very excited to go into those. We knew that Wrestle was going to get a big story, and I am happy to say. But I think, as you had it, better start by our now unfavorite couple, because they're having it very tough, if they're ever going to be a couple, Samara and Aram.
Yeah,
what was that about?
I have shipped Saram from season 2, and I'm having trouble shipping them right now. Like, I never got off my Key and Squared ship, even through their rougher moments. I think they can fix this. These writers are good. They can fix this. I'm just kind of at this point, and I've seen this a lot on Tumblr, of this, can we just stop now, please? I've been really frustrated with them. I guess my biggest issue is how petty it's coming across. That's really been my biggest problem with it, and I feel like I'm gonna get yelled at again. As soon as this comes up, I'll have people in my inbox. Why did you say that about Samar? I just, her whole spiel with Aram and turning down this grant that she apparently wanted for years because she felt like it was a manipulation from him. I don't doubt, I'm not negating the fact that, yeah, he probably did volunteer her for that, but I don't think it was...
I didn't think he wanted to get her out of the way. Because I think that she got that, it meant that she was grooming for public policy. So probably that would have got her out of the way.
I don't think Aram's that sneaky, honestly. Most people are in this show. Aram, I don't see him being quite that manipulative. I honestly see
He's learning, though. He's evolving rapidly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I honestly saw it as, my friend is hurting. I don't want my friend hurting. What can I do to make her feel better? This is something she's always wanted. And so, like, I don't think it was the best way for it to have happened for her. I mean, that's true, but I also think it was a bit of an overreaction for her to turn down something she'd always loved. I mean, like, if it came out that they were only doing it to fill a quota for a woman or for a Muslim or for, a woman of color or something like I could understand turning it down at that point. I mean, that would be totally valid. I could totally get behind her on that. But she got in on her merits. Well, she was just volunteered, or she was volunteered by, and who says Aram hasn't been putting her name in the pocket?
Yeah,
every year.
I have a very different view of Samar and Aram than you. It's funny because in this episode, which is a setup episode, I think we're having, for what we've been talking before the podcast, we've had vastly different opinions on a lot of things, and this is one. I actually understood Samar, not like, yeah, well, she was right in doing this, but I understood where she was coming from an emotional perspective. I think Samar has fought very hard to be what she is, in the idea that Aram was doing this to somehow manipulate her or get rid of her, because I have a feeling that had she been accepted, that means being groomed for public policy, maybe that would have meant for her to get out of the task force. it felt that when the guy said that sang his praises, I saw where she was coming from. It's, she wanted to be there by her own merits, and the idea that she's there because Aram nominated her is insulted. I get it.
I can see it. I can. But like I said, I feel like there are so many possibilities there, and like I've said multiple times, emotions don't always make sense. And I think that's really what I need to fall back on when I'm looking at this, and I'm having trouble doing it. Which is not the character or the writing's problem. That's me looking at it and my lens that I'm looking at it through. But, I'm just having trouble with it because it comes across very petty to me. And I think, like you just said, it's a very emotional situation. I just need to kind of try to shift my I need to try to shift my vantage point there to understand where she's coming from, and hopefully I can do that by next episode.
Did you also find intriguing Aram's relationship with Red in there? It was a very ballsy move that he made when he asked Red if it was true that he shot Kate because she was trying to help Liz.
Well, I thought it was very Aram. I mean, it kind of reminded me of season 2. Yeah, when they're looking for Tom when he's in Dresden, and they walk in and Red's explaining that Liz kept him on a boat and tortured him for 4 months, yada yada yada, and Aram goes, "Please tell me you're joking." Like, I think that these acts of such violence and darkness are just foreign to him, and he's like, "Did you really do that?" Is this for real? I think he has a hard time wrapping his mind around it.
It could be, but yeah, I mean, it's because he was so. It is an excellent way to me that I admire the writers for doing it. The way they had last episode, he was the one helping Dembe against everybody, following what his conscience was telling him was the right thing to do, because Dembe was trying to help Red find who had been against him. And in this episode is asking Red to clarify the reasons he shot Mr. Kaplan.
Well, I mean, that's a bit like Wrestler when he let Liz go in season 2, and he let her go because he thought it was the right thing to do to give her the benefit of the doubt and let her out of the post office when the cabal was after her. And then he regretted it later when she shot the AG. He felt personally responsible for that. Aram was doing what he thought was right in helping Red and trying to protect Red, and then suddenly this new piece of information comes to light, and he's like, just total shock.
I don't know that Aram would have actually felt that was the wrong thing to do, but I think it was a wrong motivation for it. Yeah. I don't think that he expects Red to act any different, but the motivation surprised him.
Yeah. And it's also, his loyalty's gonna, I mean, he knows Liz, he knows Tom, he knows Agnes, he's one of Agnes's godfathers. And this woman was trying to help, even if Aram wasn't behind Liz, faking her death. I mean,
he was very torn by it.
Yeah, this woman still was trying to help Liz. Her motives were good, and she got shot in the face for it.
See, that's where we're starting to diverge right there, because I used to hold that opinion.
Well, I'm saying from Aram's point of view.
Yeah, from Aram's perspective, I think that there is something that is changing in the way a lot of these characters are seeing each other, not just the way they're seeing Kate, the way they're seeing Red, the way they're seeing Liz, and everything is changing. Like Aram and Samar, they're changing the way they're seeing one another, in seeing aspects of themselves that they haven't really tackled before.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. I think that it's kind of like all the bodies coming up and having to face this. You're facing everything that's happened. They're having to face these truths about themselves and Liz made the comment, she goes, it's always hard finding out new truths about yourselves.
Yep.
And that's, everybody's dealing with it right now. It's not just Tom, it's not just Liz, it's not just Red, not just Kate. Everybody on this team in this show is finding out truths about themselves, about other people, and the audience is getting new truths about them.
Yeah, I think that's what they're gonna write in places, in strange places for us to find. Nothing is as it seems.
That was so funny, because apparently Z over on Twitter made the comment, and I missed that, but I don't follow a lot of Twitter most of the time, but I thought I saw it in the episode when it aired, and I was like, don't they use stock footage for that? Like, it makes sense that they do. And then
they probably photoshopped it.
No, I think it was part of the stock. I don't know, but it was there, and so it was odd. I don't know if it was just there and it worked out for them or what, but it was interesting. It was an interesting bit that went flashing by my screen that night.
Yeah, very, very. I love those little things that you don't know what they are until you see the whole thing. You want to talk about Liz next, or you want to talk about Wrestler and Gail?
I actually want to leave Wrestler and Gail towards the end, because I have a lot of love for Gail, and that may take a few minutes. This could change very quickly, but as of right now, I have a lot of love for Gail.
I told you guys, this is going to be one in which Jen and I are not going to see the same.
And that's okay.
Yeah, we've had some of those.
Hey,
all right, let's go with Liz.
We can agree without sending each other nasty anons, or disagree without sending each other nasty anons.
Wow. What a rare thing, huh?
I know. Crazy.
Liz.
Yes. So I loved Liz in this episode. I mean, Liz has done so much growing over the course of these 4 seasons that it's just been beautiful. And one of my very favorite things from this episode was that conversation in which there were two bits from it, 2 different things I took from it. The conversation she and Red had in the car driving up to her apartment complex. And also, by the way,
she saved Red's life.
Say what?
She saved Red's life by not allowing him to come in.
She did. Inadvertently, but she did. No, but something interesting, we haven't seen a lot outside their apartment, but it kind of looks like a sketchy neighborhood with all the graffiti and stuff. So
yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know.
It looks like a nice apartment building.
It does, like the inside's gorgeous, but I don't know. Anyway, but that was not one of my points.
Industrial chic.
So industrial
chic.
Yeah. So the 2 points I had on that was, the first one, Red's just making small talk. How's Tom? Well, he's having a hard time with it. And she makes a very pointed statement to him. She says that finding out things about your past is never easy. Or finding out truths about your past is never easy. And, you know, at first glance, I was like, oh, well, this was just a way to let the audience that did not watch Redemption know, hey, Tom's over there, he's searching for his past, he's not gone, but we have not forgotten Tom Keene, it's fine. But when she walks into her apartment and her husband's not there with the kid, this is why.
Oh, I thought it had more than that. I think that she knew. She knows he's her father.
Well, that's
or has
that's
a very, very good idea by now. And I think that it was just him, telling him, this is being hard for me.
And that's what I was getting around to. That I think that was a double layer there that the writers did an excellent job with, using it for 2 points. One, a brief, hey, by the way, here's where Tom is. And 2, I think Liz knows. And how could she not at least suspect at this point? Because she finds out that Red was sleeping with her mother, and that the man that was supposed to be her father is not her biological father. You gotta at least question that, regardless of what Red's told you. Because Red also told her at the beginning, everything about me is a lie. And so, why would she not at least question that? And the second thing that I really enjoyed, and apparently offended somebody over on Tumblr, Well, I started calling it Liz's moral line in the sand. Because she does this, where she gives sort of an ultimatum saying, this is a moral line that I'm not willing to cross, you know, either like she did with Tom in season 2. You have to be honest with me. If you're going to lie to me, I'm not going to be anywhere around you, and I'm going to walk away. And she did that with Red here today, or here on this episode, where she said, you've got to tell me, I'm willing to help you take her down, I'm willing to help you put her in jail, what have you, but you cannot hurt her. That she draws that line in the sand and says, you know, unless you are willing to put me first and not harm Kate Kaplan, you cannot come see my child. I am not putting that around my child.
And that is before, or maybe not, before she knows, well, no, it is, because that is before she knows who Kate was to her.
Exactly.
But then we had that scene with Liz. Oh, Liz and Kate.
Yeah. Kate was interesting there.
Before we go into Kate, what I found very interesting, that Red is willing not to lie, to tell her the truth, even if it means that he doesn't get to see Agnes.
I think Red tries to be as honest as he can with Liz. When he says he doesn't lie to Liz, I think that's hedging towards a very careful line with him, but I think that if he can, he is as honest as he can be with Liz, if that makes sense. I think that is his wish and his intention. He just feels like he can't share everything with her.
Exactly.
Which is a huge issue with them. But...
Well, Red plays it closer to the vest.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason he wears a vest, so he can wear things close to it. But it's a secrecy, need of secrecy versus need for truth that Liz has, because so much of her past has been hidden from her. I think that's where that stems, that love of truth. Because certainly it wasn't from her Grista father.
No. I think it's because her life's been so turned upside down that she needs to know what's real. If she questions it, she's not going to put up with it. And right now, I think she's questioning Red being her father, and that's hurting enough already. And then if he's sitting there and doing this, she needs him to choose her over his business, over his own feelings of betrayal. She needs him to choose her feelings over his.
Yeah. Also, let us examine for a little bit. If Liz knows or have a strong suspicion that Red is indeed her father, I think this is an issue of abandonment. One of the things that to me is more interesting about what's going on with Liz and Red is the fact that when Liz first meets Red, I mean, come on, this is a woman who has been told that she was abandoned by a career criminal father, and who then sees this career criminal coming and talking to her only. They get to be a part of her wondering, am I his daughter? Is that my father? Is that monster that I've studied my father? And she's made him feel already what she feels about the abandonment. She told him in I think it was 101, you lost your right to talk about parenthood when you abandon your wife and child on Christmas Eve. I think that is when he's talking about, is a baby really what you want? That's what he tells him. The other thing is when she says, when they find, when she thinks he's looking for Jennifer, and says, you lost the right to you don't have a right to look for your daughter, because the night you abandoned her, you lost that right. So Lisa made very, very interesting elements of abandonment and how she feels about a father abandoning a child. So even if she thinks that Red might be her father, or she knows Red is her father, because Liz is good at keeping secrets. She's not a Boy Scout or Girl Scout. she definitely can keep her own secrets quite well for a long time. So if she knows or if she suspects, the idea that Red has chosen not to tell her the truth when Red knows how important the truth is to her gotta hurt. And I think she's giving him a dose of his own medicine by keeping things she knows or suspects. And the fact that she's leveraging Agnes against that pretty much speaks for that. Because for a perfect stranger or somebody who has dubious relationship to you, that would not be that much. I mean, what is he to her? Nothing. But if he is your father and that's his granddaughter, that is definitely a power play.
I think it's a comment that you made on Tumblr the other day about that she's basically taking the advice that Red gave to Tom about not telling Scotty. She's doing that to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I think
totally
it's smart.
Oh, yeah.
It's smart. I mean, she tried asking. She tried asking a couple of times. Obviously not believing his answers, because otherwise she wouldn't keep asking the same questions over and over.
And in this world, information is power.
Mm-hmm.
And so holding that close, she's got something to work with.
Exactly. So our list is learning a lot of things. And I have a strong suspicion that Liz knows that when that scene where she's in the room, Rostov wakes up and she's in the room and she's, her face there is all sorts of emotions going through her. And she seems so shocked and bothered by she not being Rostov's daughter. Is because I think she knows. If I'm not this guy who was sleeping with my mother, I guess I'm this other guy who was also sleeping with my mother's
that's been
daughter.
telling me that I'm not his daughter over and over again, which would only heighten the feeling of abandonment with her.
Exactly. So, you're denying me.
Yeah, and that also would make sense why when all she found was his hat at the place where Kirk was torturing him, why when he showed up at the safe house later, she just didn't even pause. She just walked up and hugged him. And was, that really emotional moment there. And why after that, she, once she had time to kind of process everything after the emotional reaction, because I know a lot of people had some issues with the fact that after that she kind of went back to freezing him out. I mean, not as badly as she had been, but she wouldn't let him come see Agnes. She wouldn't, various things like
sense.
that. Yeah, because I mean, the emotional moment of realizing he's alive, he's okay, and then going, okay, he's alive, he's fine, that's dealt with.
And he's still denying that I'm his daughter, and he's still basically abandoning me over and over again because he thinks that protecting me is more important than what I think is important to me.
Well, it goes back to season 2 when they were talking about when he was sitting there and trying to talk about the cabal and everything happening, and she's going,
yes,
I understand that this is important, but I need you to listen to me. You are not telling me about my mother. This is important to me. And yeah, I mean that's what it comes back to. These are incredibly complicated emotions that she's dealing with and struggling with. And I don't even know if she's got her... I mean, she probably doesn't have her normal sounding board right now because Tom's off in chaos with his, with his parents. Yeah. She's not going to heap that on him, so she's processing everything that's happening right now. She's doing it in her own head, which always is a little bit dangerous for Liz.
It's also interesting that in that scene that you mentioned when he comes back and grabs his hat, and he seems... To him, grabbing his hat gives him that glimmer of hope. You see that expression that Spader puts on? It's like, that is an act of love. And he's happy to take it. And I also found in that moment there was a very telling thing. Tom leaves the room.
Yeah, he gives them a moment.
And that...
I think Tom's known for a while. I think that he doesn't have strict evidence. But honestly, when he told her at the end of season 1, your father's alive, as he thought he was dying, I think he thought it was Red. I think he suspected it was Red. And I think he's thought for a long time, because he's asked her several times, and I mean, he's made snarky comments to Red himself, what I didn't ask Daddy's permission, and
Mm-hmm.
he's made various comments over the time. He straight up asked Liz at one time, hey, does that make Red your dad?
Yeah.
And
Is he gonna walk you down the aisle?
yeah, just all these comments. I keep joking. I said there was no bigger daddy gator than Tom Keene. Like, it's just this man.
And he treats him like some father-in-law.
Yeah, he does. And
he goes to ask him questions. When he wants him to do a job, he's like, well, I'm not going to help you do this. Oh, but that's not what I want. Okay, well, I help you. And, the fact that Red is asking about him, it seems to me they've settled into a dumb Red kind of relationship.
Yeah, it's a
you may not have
begrudging
been my
family.
choice, but hey.
A begrudging father and son-in-law. They really are. And that's what I had always hoped for them. And so I'm very happy to see that coming about.
Yeah. Very interesting parallels the show is drawing between Home in Redemption, and this is happening at the same time. And I think that's going into themes, and people ask why I like the Kings together if I'm not a shipper. It's because their themes and symbols seem to parallel everything, and at this point you have the same thing. And I think that as we go forward in the storyline and we look back to what was happening even out of their out of their sphere that they knew, we will see how these themes were happening parallel to each other. Because let's talk about 2015, when Howard had already found Tom and Tom had no idea what was going on, or 2012 when Susan was starting to get anxiety, or all that things that have been happening in Redemption, of Howard looking for Tom and Red protecting Liz from afar. This is all this protecting a child in danger and protecting your family that run through the line of the show.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the things are not apparent, and that's you always have to go back and look at all the evidence, look at all the clues, look at all the scenes, and you're going to see things that just flew right past you because you didn't have the background to understand what you were seeing.
Exactly. It's finding those pieces of the puzzle. I mean, you and I talk about very regularly, we don't have all the pieces yet, and that's why you can't, why sometimes you can't make a firm decision, and why sometimes even after you've made your firm decision, your firm theory, you have to shift it later because you get this piece of the puzzle you didn't even know was missing. Oh, that's there? Okay. That just made it a whole lot bigger,
Yeah, exactly.
And so
exactly.
it's
very, very interesting, very well played. I gotta give kudos to Megan Boone in that scene. It was a beautifully played scene.
Oh yeah, she's really come into her own in this show. And I saw, I don't remember if it was an interview or if I read it or saw it. It's been a busy last few days, but she said something about the fact that she's really grown up. That she came into the show in her late 20s, and now she's in her early 30s, and she has a child of her own and a fiance, and personally and professionally, that she's really grown during this show, and I think she's really grown as an actress as well. Mm-hmm. I think she's become she was good at the beginning. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing her acting at all, but I think she's really upped her skill level, which you would assume she would with the people she's working with.
Yeah. Also, I always give caution to people because, not anymore. I don't see them so much, but I used to see that a lot, and people, disrespecting Megan's craft. I think that until we get to the end of the show and you think of all all the things that Liz knew or didn't know, it was going to be very hard to judge anything that has happened in the show because nothing is as it seems. These people...
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing is as it seems.
Fly over nothing.
Everything that we've seen, they got a way of... It's like, I always say, it's like the blind people or the blindfolded people looking at an elephant. If you touch the legs, you think it's one thing. If you touch the trunk or the tail, you think it's a different thing. But until you see the whole animal, don't judge it.
Good way to put it. So do we want to go into Kate?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Tessa and I have very different opinions
On
on
basically
Kate.
everything on this episode.
Yeah, hey, it does happen. And that actually makes the podcast a little more interesting. I mean, than just, yes,
Yeah.
I agree with your amazing theory. That's, and it could be that one of us is right, one of us is wrong, or it could be that both of us are wrong, or it could be we're both
And
a
we're
little
seeing
right.
the trunk and the tail.
Yeah, I mean, we will find out as the episodes air. But
so tell me about Kate.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I've always liked Kate. I've always been fond of Kate. Just in general, since the day she showed up, I've always been rather fond of her. She's, she spent the first couple seasons very under the radar, but I liked her. And last week's episode with her background really cemented that for me. I mean, I loved her so much after that. And this episode, when she was in there with Agnes, I definitely got the same vibe as I did off Scotty when she was with Agnes in season 3 when Tom walked in. And I remember discussing with people in season 3, was Scotty threatening or was she not? I still am of the opinion that Scotty was very threatening, because when anybody that you don't know their intentions holding your child, your innocent little girl...
It goes back to Solomon holding Denver's granddaughter.
Like, I don't think Kate was going to hurt her, but it still makes you nervous until you have that kid in your arms. I mean, she's got armed goons around her. There's so much that could happen. What would have happened if Red had walked in? Would they have had a shootout with the kid there? And where on earth is... you assume Carly, the babysitter, was there with her. What did she do with her? That was... Like, I'm surprised I haven't seen that ever. Where's the babysitter? Was this child just sitting there by herself? Like, you assume the babysitter was there, but how on earth did she get her to leave?
Well, maybe they just put her in a closet.
Yeah, you hear the bang, bang, bang later, and Liz is like, I'm sorry, I will pay you more.
Yeah, don't worry. This is my opinion. I used to have a very similar opinion to you from Kate Kaplan. I still love her. I love the fact that she appears in her Chanel suits and her high heels, and she's carrying the chainsaw, and she's not going to be doing cutouts in plays. And
she's out of the box. I love out of the box characters. Yeah. I hate people that you can't box in, and she's one of those. She breaks a lot of stereotypes.
I love her character. I love the job that Susan Blummer makes with a character. I find that there was always a little piece of me saying, boy, this woman is a little weird. But you know what? She's a cleaner for Red. She has to be a little weird. And no, I mean, if you really look at everybody that surrounds Red, they're all oddballs. So her being a bit more oddball than the rest was like, well, she's been one of the longest people in his interaction.
I'm not sure she's more of an oddball than the rest. I think she's just a little bit different. I mean, she's a little quieter. She's a little more in control. But I mean, if you look at Brimley, if you look at Glenn, if you look at even Marvin,
they're all strange people.
Oh, they're bizarre,
they're very, very
and I
strange.
love them for it. That's Red's army.
And I think that's what Red likes is people who are a little off the beaten path, and I think Spader has commented on that in a few interviews. But I always thought that. And then we got Requiem last week. And my view of Kate Kaplan went from, she's just on a lovable oddball with a lot of loyalty, to this woman is either keeping serious secrets or there is something really wrong with her. And that was last episode where I thought, there's some strange things with this woman from the get-go. Mm-hmm. But now after this episode and seeing what she was doing with the people employing Philomena, and somebody made a timeline of what she has been doing, which was even better. I think it was a Venting Blacklist at Tumblr. And she made this breakdown of what Kate has been doing. And obviously, there is no way on earth that I have a vanilla view of Mr. Kaplan anymore. I think that she was always in there looking for buying her time to do this to Red. There's no way that she, instead of burying the corpse in the dirt so they will decompose faster, she shrink wrapped them, made the available ones, because we never see her digging in the dirt. So those probably she left in places easily accessible to her, conveniently shrink wrapped to preserve them and basically mummify them, and left the tail things as to how to identify what they died of and what their name were and the place, the moment, the day they died, everything documented. No way on earth that this was a woman helping Red. She was helping Red for a reason. And I think she sold it brilliantly.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I have a different approach. The documentation I see as being a little OCD on that. She comes from a mortician's background, and so she's used to documenting. She's used to keeping careful notes. I think that's a thing with her, that it's something she needs to do. When it comes to where she disposed of the bodies, I guess it just depends. I mean, it's possible, I guess, that she's been after him since the get-go, but I can see a few things. One, maybe insurance, because if you cross Raymond Reddington, he's a dangerous, dangerous enemy. Mm-hmm. It might have been a self-preservation insurance policy of hers, and it could have also just been where they were. I mean, you're going to be able to dump a body in a place with better soil than, like I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, and the soil there is almost impossible because it's all on bedrock. I mean, you burying someone in that is impossible. I mean, obviously there are places you could, but I mean, there are going to be places that are just more difficult to deal with that, like that. There are other ways to handle it, of course. And so, I mean, it definitely could be an option. I'm not negating that at all, but for me, coming from a character development point of view, I look at the things that she did, like in Season 2 when they were fighting the Cabal, and the fact that she was willing to stand by him and die by his side. I think that... Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I think that she... Exactly what she was saying this episode, and I think last episode too, that she feels like she enabled him, and that she got in too deep, and that she did not handle her job as she originally meant to. Her focus was supposed to be on Liz, and she let it slip. And I also think that the bullet to the head has screwed with her royally. You hear about people having strokes that change their entire personalities. I think that she's got some serious issues going on right now, because there's something going on here. Kate Kaplan is the first character we've seen that has lingering issues from a major injury. We haven't, I mean, Tom's been shot multiple times. Red was shot in the chest. Wrestler nearly lost his leg. You don't see a limp from Wrestler. You don't see Tom having issues from being gut shot and then kept and tortured for 4 months. You don't see, lingering issues with Red. Red just got poisoned. He seems fine now. I mean, because they talked about healing from the damage that was done. You would, and a lot of that's just the fact that it's TV. What are you going to do? You can't,
You can't cripple your characters.
Exactly. You can't have Tom doing all that he does if he's, continuously, if he's got lingering injury issues. So, I mean, a lot of that's television, and I understand that, but the fact that they've never had any of that, and then suddenly they are making a big deal over Kate's migraines, makes it stand out to me. Something is going on with those migraines, and it's signaling something. I just don't know what it is yet. If she's, I think Blacklister214, I think it was her on Tumblr, made the comment, maybe she's dying, which is a possibility. Or maybe it's screwing with her memories and her brain, and, she's having maybe not a personality shift, but like a perception shift, if that makes sense. Basically, she's becoming, her viewpoint has changed, and she's I'm trying to think how to describe this.
I
But she's
think
become
that
focused on the fact that
taking
she
down
enabled.
Red.
Yeah, and she's trying, and she thinks that she has to do this to protect Agnes because she failed Liz. And she feels responsible for that, very much the same way.
You take that as face value. You believe her when she says she's trying to save Liz.
I do right now. Well, she didn't say she was trying to save Liz. She said that she'd already failed Liz. She said that, and she's either lying to Liz and manipulating her, which honestly I'm a little more inclined to believe, or her memories are really screwed up right now because she definitely saw Agnes. She said,
oh yes.
How did she phrase it?
She prepared the nursery. She was taking care of Agnes. She prepared Tom's escape. She was in Cuba. Yeah, I mean, that is the most ridiculous thing that I've seen.
Even if she was referring to, the day that she and Tom gave Red's goons the slip so that Tom could get away with Agnes, even if that's what she was referring to when she said, helping you and your family escape. It might have been that day she was referring to. She still saw Agnes in Cuba when they went after her. And so, there is still a slip up there, and that's not a writing slip up. That is
there are too many
Mr.
of
Kaplan.
them.
Yeah, that is a Mr. Kaplan slip up. And it's either her memories are screwed up or she's playing Liz. But I could see her playing Liz if she was convinced that she had to protect Agnes.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're seeing a lot of people protecting Liz as if Liz were still the 4-year-old girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we see these guys, both Kirk and Red, had, when they were...
pictures of little Liz.
When they thought they had lost her, when Kirk realized he wasn't her father, when Red thought she was dead, they had baby Liz, toddler Liz, 4 years old. That's what they're looking at. That's how they see her. That's how they remember her. And there's this woman here that's going, hello, I have a family and a life of my own. Stop talking about me like I'm not even here,
I see what you're saying. It would seem the most common explanation. There is something about the character now that, looking back, I went back and I looked at some of the scenes with Kaplan, and I got the same vibe. It was that weird thing that I wasn't picking up before, that I'm definitely picking up now.
And it may be
weirdness.
It may be, but I'm still stuck on the fact that she was willing to lay down her life for Red, and that's always gonna get me. And
yeah, that's what I was doing.
You can say a lot of things, but actions speak louder than words.
Yes, yet. There is one person who's in charge of what happened to Red and to give certain things to Liz. That is Kaplan.
Yeah.
If something were to happen to Red, Kaplan was the one who had to take care of the things that needed to be taken care of.
And that comes from the comics for those that haven't read that.
Yes, and I think it is also referenced somehow in the story as well. But in the comics, definitely that is referenced, and there is a point in the show where it does. And yes, in that scene when he says there are things that need to be done in case of my death, and you cannot do them if you're here. So it's a calculated risk that by making I'm going to stay and defend you, because she knows that Red needs her out of there in safety in order to do the things that she needs to do. So I'm not convinced that is what it is. I think it's a lot what it doesn't seem. And I think that's what, to me, if I go back to my first impressions of the show and how things have been changing, there is always that there's a little something that kind of bothers you. And then you go back 5 seasons or 3 seasons later and you're like, oh, there it is. Now I can put that piece in there. And now this whole scenario changes in front of my eyes almost like by magic. Now what it seemed to be a loving thing, it's now a threatening thing. I did get a distinct impression that Kaplan was threatening Agnes, while I never got the impression that Scotty Hargrave was threatening Agnes.
See, I definitely did with Scotty. Not in that she would actually have hurt her, but it was kind of a warning. I mean, whenever you have someone that is questionable holding your child, it's a threat. Whether they would actually do anything or not, there's a question there. It's just, I could see it. I mean, I saw it in Tom's face, I saw it in Liz's face. It's that poor kid. I mean, Agnes is always being threatened. But Kate had a good point. And it's something that I've thought about before, and I think you and I have discussed when we were talking about how they would handle her child care when Tom went back to work, was what happens if one of Red's enemies, or even one of Liz's, someone out of Liz's past or Tom's past, what have you, they have a lot of enemies.
She's an FBI profiler.
Yeah, what happens if one of them comes to their home? How is this child going to be protected if one of her parents isn't home? And obviously, Kate's people were able to get rid of whoever the babysitter is. I'm assuming it's Carly, because that's who we had noted in Redemption. But that, I mean, she was able to do that, but Kate had a very good point. What would happen if it had been someone trying to physically harm the child?
You remember going back to Redemption when they say, oh, maybe we could get a nanny?
Yes.
And Kaplan now is shown to be to be Liz's nanny. Now, I wonder if we're going to be introducing the future Kate into the mix, because I think that those things comes in like waves. It's very interesting. I always said Liz and Tom are negating the reality of who they are. It doesn't matter if they want a simple life. By virtue of who their parents were or are, they can't have it.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think that the problem is Red cannot tell her that, because if to tell her this, he has to tell her what it is. She has to know where he's coming from in order to make sense.
So, one of the things that puts Kate in less of a vicious villain sort of category for me, because I mean she could wreak thorough havoc, and she definitely has, but was the way she's handling the people she's trying to turn on Red. The accountant that she's talking to, I don't remember his name.
She killed already 2 accountants, or kill one and have the other one.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting, because
What's the difference?
She's not, yeah, because Marvin, I mean, she had him pinned. I mean, she hasn't hurt these people. These people seem very close to Red, like his inner circle, you know, and
But Zach Small, she had no problem sending Isabella Stone to kill him, and poor Stratos Saranto's wife, who didn't even like Red.
Yeah. And so you gotta wonder what the difference is, or is it,
Is there a different criteria for one versus the other?
And is it just that she hired someone that she didn't realize was going to go that far? I mean, I don't know. And it's something kind of to hold back and look at. Because, I mean, Marvin was never he wasn't in any danger. I mean, not physical danger. But, oh my gosh, I loved his sister. His poor sister. I loved her peeking into his apartment. Hi. I want to see the sister back. Because I've always liked Marvin. I've always been rather fond of him. I love the actor. The actor's quirky as hell. And
yeah. He does a good job, too.
He does. And I loved his reaction when Philomena took the sister at gunpoint. And he said, "This is not your fault. She is a professional." Because it clicked with him. You saw it click with Marvin that something was off. The moment that Philomena said something about, that's what I hear.
I've been hearing about that, yeah.
And he goes, "But you just met her." And, like, at that moment, his phone rings. And you could tell he already knew that they were screwed. Yeah. And he got the alert out to Red as quickly as possible. and was just totally chill about it because he knew this was unfolding, you know, and that fighting it wasn't going to get him and his sister out alive. The only thing he could do to get his sister out alive was go with her and zap himself in the neck. Poor guy. Oh.
Yeah, I'm finding that Kate's modus operandi, the first person she hired was Philomena. And she hired Philomena 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And then she hired Isabella Stone. In order to hire Isabella Stone, she had to have already got the money to hire Isabella, unless she has been actually stealing from Red way before and Red hadn't noticed.
I think she has been. I mean, because they were talking about... That cost
a lot of money.
Yeah, they were talking about the fact that one of his accounts was emptied. I mean, that was part of the spiel, is that she's been going after it.
But that happened, that account was emptying, not at a time when... The account was emptying when Zach Small was killed. That's when the account is ending.
Mm-hmm.
Is empty. But the hiring of Philomena happened when she just got out of the woods.
But talk about, I mean, look at all of the hideaways Red has. Red's talked about having various hideaways all around every state. And
all over the world.
Yeah, and Dembe found that Kaplan had already gotten into one of them, so how many more has she gotten into that Red doesn't know about because there are no alarms sounding, there's nothing. He would have to physically go there to realize this was missing. Yeah. And so she's been driving all over the place. She's probably gotten the cash out of there. She's been stealing from Red. He's probably more in no pun intended, he's probably more in the red than he realizes. You know?
Yeah, this to me, this doesn't speak of a plan on the fly, because even as she is talking to Mountain Man, there is very little idea that she's going after him.
And it's possible that when, while she was setting everything up, because she had to get the money to set up Tom and Liz's escape. That's not a cheap endeavor either. It's possible that because Liz was gone for about a month, so she had a month in there that she knew there was a possibility that if Red found out where they'd gone to, he was going to come after her. And she may have been starting to set up something at that point as insurance.
I'm going now into my second part of this. I think that Kate setting Liz fake death was not what it seemed either. I don't think it was to help Liz escape. I think she wanted to have Red kill himself. Because, I mean, look at that. After that, he goes into Cape May, has an opium. Opium alone could have killed him. He was in there almost a week. A week in an opium den. He could have died there. He could have killed himself in Cape May. Because he goes to Dom and asks a way forward because he can't live long with what he feels inside. Then he snaps out of it and goes after Rostov. So what is Kate expecting? If you remember that scene with Wrestler tells Red, it doesn't matter if you kill him. You're never getting out of here alive. The building will be surrounded. You're not getting out of here alive. And Red says, I don't care. So I think that she was counting on that Red was going to kill Rostov, eliminate Rostov out of the equation, and then Red was going to be killed by law enforcement.
See, at the end of season 3, I thought she meant to have Red arrested. I did.
Killed, yeah, either way.
I don't know killed. I'm not sure I'd go that far. I mean, obviously it'd be a possibility, but I mean, I think that was part of it, because otherwise... It's not a huge jump to realize that Red would be able to follow the trail and find how Tom got out.
especially when you use an associate of Red.
Yes, exactly.
A very old associate of Red. I was with her with you, recommitted to your wife.
Exactly. So
Eileen.
I think that she meant to have him arrested and thrown in a box somewhere in a deep, dark hole. And keep him away from Liz. I don't know about murdering him. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I also... And part of this may just be me, that I want to have a better view of Kate, because I like her. But, I mean, I don't think that was the first goal in mind, would be to have him killed. You know, but I think that she was trying... I do think she was trying to help Liz. I do. I don't question her on that. I think she was trying to help him and trying to get her and Agnes and anybody Liz loves away from all of this.
Yeah, I also have a dark feeling about all these things, because there is something that has never quite gelled with me. I've never found an explanation that is satisfactory. Is Rostov foaming desire of having Tom killed? There was no reason for it. And it started when Solomon says, feel free to kill everybody else.
Yeah.
Only her. The rest can die. Then it's Mato who gets a specific instruction. He wants him killed. Then again on the island. And then it's almost like a compulsive thing. Why would he care about the daughter of somebody who's obviously not very fond of Red to begin with? So the only explanation to me is that somewhere that I'm not sure how this is all going to connect, Rostov got some information. In exchange for that information, Tom had to die, leaving what? The new Katerina, Liz, and Kate. Now it's Liz, Agnes, and Kate. And I think that's what she always wanted. She wanted to go back to that trio, that idyllic life. Because she was blaming Red for taking everything she loved, but Red wasn't responsible for Annie, so it wasn't Annie.
Yeah, I think she added Annie into that. I think that was a very emotional response, basically saying the domino effect. She would never have been with Annie. She would never have fallen in love with Annie if she had not been driven away from Katerina and from Liz. And so
But look at a wrestler who said a very opposite thing. It was my biggest enemy who brought Audrey back to me, and my best friend who took it away from me. So instead of going into that same parallel thing of saying, hey, you know what, Red actually did something good for me, because even if it was for a couple of years, I was with Annie and I was happy with Annie. Red had nothing to do with Annie's death. So I'm almost thinking that the real love there was Katerina. Katerina was a wrecker. I mean, this woman must have been like the most seductive person on earth, because she was able to first be whatever people wanted her to be, and then inspire this dying thing that even at the end of his life is what Rostov says, love did it, if you can believe it. It can fester for too long. It can rot. It can, all these things that is like, now you're seeing it in another person, Kate. So did Kate also was instrumental in trying to get Tom killed? Because there's something in this thing that it doesn't add up to me, and I'm not going to say is lousy writing, because rewatches show you it will all make sense.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see where that one goes, where all that goes. I'd love to know why Kirk was so hell-bent on killing Tom, because he really was.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was like foaming rage.
At the time, part of me, I really think that he thought if he took everything away from Liz, basically she'd have to love him. Like, if he was all she had left. Her and Agnes, Kirk and Agnes were all she had left in the world. Basically, she didn't know it was Stockholm Syndrome.
Having your husband killed and the father of your child pretty much guarantees that your child is going to say, you kill my father? No. Was my father a threat to you? No.
I didn't say it was smart. I just said that that's kind of the impression I always got with Kirk, because he was always a little little nutty. And that basically he was trying to get rid of Tom in order to not give her anybody else.
But he wasn't even smart for, obviously he was a very intelligent man. Otherwise he wouldn't have survived. He wouldn't have made the fortune. He wouldn't have done any of those things. Yet, in the moment where he would have gained Liz's goodwill by leaps if he had just said, listen, I'm going to get your husband out, I'm going to get you out, and I'm going to get you protected to get the life that you want. That would have gone a long way towards getting Liz in on the boat. But yet, the first thing he does is take the child away from Liz, because remember, a lot of people say, oh, that she didn't make it in time. No, Liz was with the baby. There was that scene where she takes a log and she leaves Agnes. Liz was right there with the baby. He separates her from the baby and Tom. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. All right, going into Red then. Oh, gosh. Oh, Red.
That scene with Dembe.
I believe I've complained before. I don't remember if it's been on the podcast or just on Tumblr or what have you. But I've made the comment before that Red has a very difficult time admitting when he's wrong. He doesn't do it a lot. He tends to hedge around the bush there, and I mean, a lot of that is the world he lives in. He can't show weakness. And I totally understand that, but it's hard to shift between the people that you can show weakness around and the people that you can't. And so I get that on a level, but that made me love his apology to Dembe all the more. Like, he just opened up and laid all the cards out to Dembe about the fact that he misjudged him and that no apology could rectify that, and that, he is, whenever he wants to step aside, their friendship will not suffer, nothing will suffer from it, it's up to him. And it goes back, you've made the comment multiple times about how these people that work for him, how it seems to hurt him that they think that they can't just leave. And like with
Emma,
thank you. Just that look. And I really, really enjoyed that scene. As frustrated as I've been with Red off and on since he shot Kate, I really enjoyed that scene. It was very well played out between James and his shop.
It was a beautiful scene. Beautiful monologue. And I love that gift to be open then.
I just love that you got me shoes. Like on Dembe. Precious.
And
man.
I wonder what is it, or
I figure we'll find out sooner or later. It does make me wonder. It
seems to be that Red is going to die at the end, or whether it's a real death or not a real death. That seems to be pointing out to that.
I keep seeing all these little signs that Red's final redemption is going to be through his death, and it breaks my heart because I don't want him to die.
Nobody's really dead on the blacklist.
It's true.
Unless the head rolls out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you chop the head off, then it's pretty good. But even if you're just in a body bag, if they're whole, then
we can have them come back. Not a problem. It's the other scene that was excellent with Red was that scene with Liz in the car.
Mm-hmm. That was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have to also talk about Red asking about Tom. Tom will be gone for a few weeks by now. And Red is inquiring, and he seems surprised that it's being hard. So it makes me wonder how many other... is he in contact with Howard? I suspect he is. They seem to be in sync. Do not trust Scotty. She's a manipulative creature.
Yeah. And it's also interesting. I'm curious what his reaction was when he found out that Tom jumped into all of this. Because, I mean, he was the one going, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Tom, leave it alone. Tom, leave it alone. And Tom's like, I'm going to do the thing.
I think that because Red's job with Tom was to keep him away from Scotty, because I suspect that when he was telling him to go find a job and find things, the plan of Howard, if you remember that, wasn't Howard was still in charge and hadn't been outed. The moment that Howard is outed, he probably hatched the plan, and then it was important that Tom stayed away from Scotty until Howard was ready to pull him in with a faking the death and putting him in with a lawyer and approaching him in a particular moment.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible. I still to this day do not take Red at the surface of his words saying we had a brief professional relationship. It means nothing about their friendship. No, I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm saying that it is. You can't take it at the surface.
Mm-hmm. No.
No, you got to ask about that friendship that happened afterwards.
Yeah, I mean there is just because, let's say that we were saying how we met one another, and we say, well, we did a podcast together, that would not be a lie. It would also not be negating anything that happened before or what would happen after. Exactly. It's that moment. You just choose a moment in time, and I'm answering you, and you make the leap that that's all it was.
And Red is notorious for that. He does it so much with Liz, and it kind of bothers me with Tom that he just accepts it. I'm like, Tom, honey, you've been in this world long enough. You should be able to understand Red speak.
And if you think about when all the other things, when he's talking about Kirk, he's totally different than that. He's like, no, this is not how it works. You wanted to see Agnes, then I help you with Kirk. Mm-hmm. And he's very, very upfront and strong. It's like, no, we're not going to dance. You're not going to give me the little things that you do. I'm not doing that. But when it comes to that emotional sphere,
that's it.
Then things get muddled because it's something that it tugs at you emotionally, then you can be.
And that is exactly it. When it comes to something that's super close to Tom, he has suddenly all of his spycraft comes into question. And
yeah, it's same as Liz.
He's a fantastic spy, but you throw those deep personal emotions in there, and it muddled. Muddled is a great way to put it. Yes.
And look at what happens even to Red when it comes to Katerina. Red is not immune to that. In fact, he had a very interesting take when we saw Dr. Linus Creel 204. He says, Liz asking, where is Carla? And he asks, of course, he's evading, but he does something really interesting. He says, I can't tell you, I never been good at reading that woman's emotions. So again, there you have another person who's not able to read somebody's emotions because he's too close to them. There's an emotional component in there, and he cannot read her. So it's not just Tom, it's not just Liz. Red does it. I suspect Katerina was exactly the same thing if they're not one and the same. Because he couldn't read her, because he didn't trust her, because he took Liz from her. Something was not connecting. Emotionally, he couldn't read her.
And that makes sense for people like them, as Red puts it. It really does. And it's the same way Scotty didn't see the signs of Tom being her son because she's too close to the situation. Once it came out, she was like, here's all the stuff that I should have seen, but didn't. Yeah. And so, this happens with all of these guys that are in this world, that are in this intelligence community in which they are excellent at what they do. All of them are excellent at what they do. But you take it out of those that, I don't want to call it
if
fake.
It has an emotional component, It muddles the water. It's like you're taking the muddler you make for drinks and you just smash everything, and the result is you can't see clearly.
It's kind of like if you're working with a professional relationship that is strictly a professional relationship, you handle it one way. But if you're working in a professional relationship with a person that's also your best friend,
that's a whole different issue.
Yeah, it's taking something you may be excellent at, and then it adds something that's going to throw it for a loop. And I thoroughly agree with you, and I definitely think that it does that for everybody in the middle of this. And so, but I love the fact that he asked her about him, and it was interesting that he was like, this is hard, I don't understand why. And you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was also Red had also a very nice moment with Marvin Gerard. It showed that affection, and I think it was so beautiful when
Especially after holding the gun on him just a couple of episodes ago.
but it was interesting that when he was holding the gun on Marvin, even it's funny because Marvin shows exactly why Red and him are very old friends. He doesn't panic. He doesn't start like, don't do this or panic or please don't kill me, I'm innocent. He waits. He reasons with Red, why would I do this? And then Red himself goes into that memory when he was in that jail, and the mosquitoes, and he sent caviar of all things. Not mosquito thing, not a practical item. Something that for Red meant you are being taken care of. Somebody is loving you, and you're not gonna die there alone and eaten by mosquitoes. So he waits, let him get to that, and then Red is like, okay. And I think that even with that call coming through saying that it wasn't the wine, I think Red was starting to see that the reasoning was flawed. And I think that when he first thought about Dembe was the guilty one, by the time even he was getting to the daughter, there was also the benefit of the doubt. But for Red, that was enough. But with he's worried about him, and then he says, there is an affection, but mostly is a commercial relationship. And that is funny how Marvin Gerard is so in tune with him that he says the same thing to Kate. Is basically, I was well compensated. Basically he's calling it a cesspool, but I was well compensated, and I went into the cesspool myself when I kidnapped my son, and then something happened, and they got me for tax evasion.
Well, most of these people, the Red employees they're criminals, but they're not just horribly evil people, if that makes sense. I mean, we're looking at this in the viewpoint of the world that we're working with here. But I mean, if Marvin was trying to save his son, just various situations in there of people that are close to him that are capable of truly terrible things.
He picks up this hurt puppies.
Yeah, he does. He's kind of like Marvin's sister.
Yeah, he picks up the puppies, and he has an affection for the hurt puppies, and they become his world.
Yeah.
And he compensates them, splendidly, because he knows that they're criminals, is in their nature to betray. Yet none of them betrays him. That's why they're all end up dead. And the ones that were about to betray them, he killed them himself. Now, I think that you want all that with Red, because that's gonna set us right into Wrestler and Gale.
Yeah. Let's go straight into Wrestler and Gale. I think those two can be spoken of in unison. Okay, I have to say, I love all the potential things that Gale brings to the table. I love Gale. Hang on. Let me fangirl for a moment. I love Gale. Tessa and I have very different opinions on Gale. I love him for his just nuttiness. I mean, the way the actor brings, I don't remember the actor's
Oh my God,
name,
he's great.
but it's just the way he talks. I mean, he's just nuts, and you can tell
him and Wrestler are like a comedy routine.
They are, but he's balanced on that very thin line between brilliance and insanity, and I love those characters.
Oh, I think he's going way over the insanity part.
He's balanced, but you could see that there is a chance that he can tip so easily the moment that he gets so focused in on the staging moment of Fowler's death. And when Wrestler goes, whoa, because he's got his gun out and pointed, and suddenly Wrestler realizes it's pointed at him because he's standing right where Fowler had been. And I'm just like, Rest. But I have a feeling he's on that tipping point, but he can be brilliant. Wrestler respects him.
Yeah. I have a very opposing view of Gale. I love the character. Love it. He's so crazy and so out there. It's almost like he's almost one of those red guys. He could become so easily be one of Red's guy. He had all the things going on. He has a little crazy stuff. He has a little thing. He cries with the body. He asks for forgiveness. He tells them, yes, they're criminals, but somebody loved them, to the policeman. He is just
I love that there. Cop. He's like, are you messing with me? No.
Beautiful, Dawn. I mean, the actor is terrific. I love the character. However, my feel with him is he is going to get Wrestler in a really bad spot.
And let me preface this all by saying my feelings on Gale can and probably will turn very quickly if he screws Wrestler. Like, I see this as I'm a big Wrestler fan. Anybody that's been following my blog or this podcast for any length of time knows Wrestler has a very dear place in my heart. And I've been looking forward to this arc for ages. I didn't know what they were going to do with it, but I knew something good was coming for Wrestler with a lot of story and a lot of meat to it, and I've really been looking forward to that. And Gale is the way they're doing this. And Spoonie with TN, who is an awesome blog, if you're a Wrestler fan, follow her on Tumblr. She made a very good point, I think it was yesterday, that there's such a difference in the people coming out of Wrestler's past, his old, everybody in his old task force, including Gale, that call him Donnie. One of them the nickname Rest that so many of us call Wrestler online comes from his task force, and the nicknames that they use. Everybody on his task force now calls him Wrestler, Agent Wrestler. It's not, except for Red. Red calls him Donald. But it's not like he really received permission to do that.
Harold Cooper sometimes called him Donald.
Yeah. But for the most part, his team called.
He's Wrestler.
It was there's a very big difference in there, and I liked
that point. Yeah,
there's
Aram, it's Samar, it's Liz, it's Cooper and Wrestler.
Yep. And so there's a distance there that apparently there was not between Gale. Julian Gale calls him Donnie. It's his nickname. He jokes with him. He plays with him. And these men haven't seen each other or heard from each other in years, it sounds like, and yet they pick up like they never had anything to leave off. Mm. And I love that, and I love the fact that that has the potential to bring a whole
unseen sign of Wrestler.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I'm thrilled over that.
Well, I think that a lot of what happened to Wrestler happened when he lost Audrey. I mean, I don't know if you remember the few episodes which basically last a few months that Wrestler is with Audrey again, and how he was a very different character. And Diego played it very well. He was happy. He smiled. It was different.
That's been a comment that I've seen floating around. It was good to see the smiles out of Wrestler, because he is. He's much quicker to smile with Gale. It's happier times.
Yeah, I think it is. It was and I think because probably, I mean, if you notice, they said they disbanded the task force, and I thought you left the bureau. So we don't know exactly if Gale was with the guys that were in Makotanita. I think it was
Jonica and a lot.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't have been, because, I mean, like, I think he was with that task force, but I think he would have left. I don't think he was involved in the Mako Tanita case, because Tanita didn't seem to be going after him. And he was going, and so he wasn't involved in that particular case, if nothing else. But yes, I do believe he was involved with that group.
So it gives to me a little pause in saying, wait a minute, it would have been very easy to tie that to Makotonida. So it's not a writing thing, because it could have been, hey, and you escaped Makotonida, and he could have said anything like, hey, I was undercover at the time, so he probably couldn't find me. Um, it, they make a very strong point of telling us that Wrestler said, I thought you left the bureau. He says, no, I didn't. Or he makes it very vague.
He said he stepped away for a little bit.
Yeah. So that gives me a very interesting perspective on him. And this is looking from theory, not character development. He steps away from it. He is not targeted by Makotonida, which tells me that either he was not involved with Makotonida, or Makotonida couldn't just find him. Maybe he was the last on the list, or maybe he was undercover. But then he does something very interesting. When he starts telling Wrestler who the dead bodies are, they start seeing that each one of those were people they tried to turn. They disappeared. Fine, that makes perfect sense. They're probably going after Wrestler's associate and trying to turn them in, and when Red found out, he killed them. As he killed Nico, as he kills all the people that he has sensed that they're going about to turn him. He apologized to a body in particular, and then he shows Wrestler Diane Fowler, because he says each one of these people is one of those cases, somebody we tried to turn. And then there is Diane Fowler. So the fact that he's putting Diane Fowler in that, to me, indicates Diane Fowler's involvement with the cabal may have been, and Gale may be tied to the cabal.
I didn't get that, but I guess it's possible. I mean, we just don't have a lot of information on him yet.
No. All I'm seeing is a hole in a story, because Diane Fowler was she's supposed to have some information about Red's family. Obviously, one information that Red has, because there was no need to kill her. He could have taken her, patch her up, torture her, get the names, kill her. It's nice and easy. It was no big deal about it. Yet he doesn't. So, and Red never leaves with that information that he wants. The only time he's forced to do that is when with fake Berlin, because it was Liz and Tom, and that messed him up. Only time he is not left with the answer he wanted. He's adept at finding exactly what people are afraid of and threatening with it. With Mato, it was not dead. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to torture you. I'm going to put you in a concrete box after you're dead. And that was enough to get him to confess. So it doesn't matter what it is. He will find it. He will get his information. Yet Diane Fowler seemed to have conflicting themes going on with Fitch. She didn't seem to be in a total agreement with Fitch, not even when they're in public, not when she says, they're not going to let you do this. So it almost makes me feel there is a part of the cabal we haven't seen. It was referenced in Bond by Solomon. Then it was always like that. Cole tells Liz there was that those names you saw, that's only the beginning. And I thought about that little thing going on with Fitch and the directors. So there got to be factions in there, and these factions we're now starting to see. I think that Diane Fowler and Gale are going to be somewhat connected to this. And the fact that Diane Fowler was first telling him, no, we're going to take him in, when obviously the cabal was saying, don't do this. It was a risk if they had taken him prisoner, because then that would have been exposed. So it tells me they're factions, and I think Gale and Diane Fowler were tied to other factions that we haven't seen.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I am not willing to say that that's,
I'm going into super crazy theories. I got nothing to back it except a little weird feeling.
I did not get that vibe off of him, but I'm not going to say that that's, an incorrect vibe to have.
And I am afraid that he's going to lead wrestler into a bad place. I mean,
Of
he's
course
already
he will.
going.
Character development. You gotta have bumps in the
Yeah.
road.
And if I may say, in season 3, we had we got promo shoots, and everybody was into environments. One that looked like a cement wall, and another that was just a gray backdrop. And everybody was in both places except Wrestler, who was only in the gray backdrop, and Red and Tom, who were only in that cement wall. And last week we saw a nice promo picture that Wrestler was taking promo pictures, or Diego Calderon was taking promo pictures, and they were in that cement wall. So, I mean, and then we saw some things of him being handcuffed. So I think that he's going to be taking into a red swirl. He's going to make decisions regarding Hitchens.
He's gonna have to make... He's either have to go and make that choice of where the fork in the road, go left or right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a point where he really grows, I think, as a character. And I love that because I am very curious to see where he goes. I'm very excited to see where it takes him. And what his decisions are and how he's willing to go. And one of the things that I think really keyed that off was his decision with Esteban at the beginning of season 4. He was willing to go against orders to do what was right. And to him, what was right. And Tom made the comment in season 3, he goes, you did what you thought was right, even if it was dead wrong. And so we'll see if Wrestler's instincts are good or if they're bad.
And he has also gone a couple of times. I mean, this was very intriguing because he's starting to take the information and power seriously. He's not telling Gail what he knows. He's keeping it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of him for that because he keeps announcing to Laurel Hitchen that she's going to get brought down. I'm like, Russ, stop.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that ties Gail into this. The moment, I do wonder what the play is between Diane Fowler, a faction of the Cabal, Fitch, Peter Kotsopoulos, Laurel Hitchens, because now Laurel is basically Red's Fetchum girl. So I wonder if somebody is trying to make a play with Wrestler to get rid of her. And Gail is a way to go there.
Might be. Take Red out for the Cabal. I could see that.
But they Hitchens at least out.
It also could be because, we saw that the Cabal used the task force at one point. Wrestler obviously didn't know that he was basically doing the Cabal's bidding because he didn't have any idea Laurel Hitchen was part of the Cabal. So when he was answering to her, he had no idea he was doing the Cabal's bidding. He thought he was doing his job. And so you might have the same thing with Gale. His superior may be deep in the Cabal and just using that position and using Gale as a pawn on the thing, on the chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a possibility as well because, I had somewhere I was going. My brain just frets. Sorry.
How they're using the task force to get rid of Red. I'm thinking that Bond faction of the Cabal, that also leads me to believe. I always found the actions of Solomon when he was employed by Scotty a bit weird. I also found the botching of the execution, the fact that he was known to Scotty, then Scotty hires him, yet he gives the order to kill everybody else, which obviously was not in Scotty. Scotty wouldn't have done that because why would you kill a bunch of federal agents in a church?
Yeah.
So it just always felt that there was a little something else to Solomon. And one of the things that we saw in Redemption is that Solomon is actually loyal. So was he really being loyal to Scotty, or was he being loyal to his first employers, which obviously is a faction of the cabal that was not with the director? That is the Bond part of it. In fact, his documents were from Germany.
Yeah.
His fake documents.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a possibility, I suppose. And the cabal, well, at least Laurel Hitchin side of the cabal hates Halcyon, so it would not be a bad thing to have. Well, of course, Laurel Hitchin was also the one that put the hit out on him. I don't think he has any loyalty to Laurel.
No, not to Laurel, but to the other faction.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from.
Order Laurel to get rid of him, then to give the tip to Scotty about saving him, and then that way because remember Scotty makes in Redemption a little thing here saying, only you could have got me to hire my own Judas. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I know that she's saying it related to Tom, but I do wonder if that also means about Solomon.
Be interesting. We'll see.
It's nothing is as it seems, and I think that you have to, some of the theories are wild theories, and they will never come to be, but it certainly pays to look beyond the obvious.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that about wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, we got crazy theories going and all that. And this was one in which we found ourselves with different views of Kate, different views of Gail. I think both excited about the direction he's taking Wrestler, because I think for the character it's going to be terrific. He's going to see a lot of growth and stories, and I hope that we get more backstories, which is they're positioning perfectly. I love that they would bring Audrey back. As a backflash.
Yeah, a flashback, yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome. I loved Audrey. Like, I'm so sad they killed her. I wrote an AU at one point in which Audrey survived, and I'm just like, can you please give Wrestler those happy moments? This poor man has suffered so much.
Yeah, you killed her in yours. I don't know what you're talking about.
I killed her in the most recent one. Yeah, I actually just did that. I was like, oh, I have to deal with Audrey. Oh, she's gonna die. Poor girl. No, but in an AU I wrote, last year's big AU that I wrote, Everything Back to You. She survived, and they actually had a very happy ending. And I was very happy with that. It made me smile. And so, I like happy endings. And yet you kill her on
this other one. You're heartless.
Yeah, well. Sometimes. Sometimes you just can't argue with where the story's going. You fight it, but you can only fight it so far.
It was the same as killing Fitch. It just had to go
died in
there.
Every AU I've ever written. Like, I cannot keep that man alive. I keep trying, and he keeps dying.
It was just perfect, and especially because you know that the part of his story is not done. So now, both Berlin and him will have more story that we never learn, and Red by killing them, by killing Berlin, and Fitch by being killed by Berlin, some of that story is going to be more difficult to find out.
Well, if your theory about the Cabal coming back around, which, like I've said before, I think they've been very quiet.
Flashbacks!
But if there are multiple, factors of the, factions of the Cabal, and it comes back around, I think we could find out more about Fitch. Because I think the writers liked Fitch. I think that they love the actor, and I think that they love the character. So I could see them working in more information about him just to get him back.
I would love to go back and see, the whole story about when they tapped Connolly in order to get to Cooper, when they, all the backstory as it was happening, as Red surrendered, and whatever happened.
Well, as we're working towards the end of the show, I think it's all but announced with season 5. They've basically
they've hired people, new people.
Yeah, they've done everything but say, yeah, we've got a season 5. So with a season or 2 left, probably, being realistic, they're starting to give us answers, and so I think we're about to go back to all these things that people were calling plot holes and this and that, and I've been one of those people, but I think we're about to come back and get a lot of that filled in as we're getting those answers. I'm super excited over that.
And I am going to make a prediction that Redemption is going to be renewed, because it is important. If you really look where this is going, Tom going through the same thing has to continue. Either they will bring it back or it will be folded into the main
Yeah,
thing.
I don't think they're just going to leave us hanging on that. I do believe if Redemption is not renewed, it's going to be folded into the main show. And that's what I keep saying about the people that hate Tom so much. I said, guys, you're not getting rid of him. If you quote unquote get Redemption canceled, with the boycott, what have you, then he's just coming back to the main show, and his story's gonna come back in it. Oh no, pretty much. Oh no, I'm not going into that. That's
pish posh. It's not happening. But it's. I have a feeling of where the last bits of Redemption are going. They're going towards the. It's going to be
the big whales on his list.
The big battle. It's going to be getting all those forces that had to spread out, but I think you're going to see Alcyon coming, you're going to see the Hargraves, you're going to see Red, you're going to see Katerina come back, you're going to see Jennifer. It's like all these people have been separated and fighting their own mini battles, and you see how they're all going to come together for that last battle.
Katerina.
If we haven't met her.
Yes, I know.
You gotta indulge the crazy stuff.
Oh, all right. Well, I think that about wraps us up for the week. And so we are really looking forward to the last few episodes of this season. If you'd like to catch us we are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And you can always leave a comment on Facebook, Twitter, and or Tumblr, because we'd love to hear from you guys.
And we will be soon planning if we're going to do any specials during the hiatus, the big summer hiatus. And we will let you know about those plans as soon as we have them set up.
Yes. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.